Mayan actually means no harm. When I first found this out, I was in Hawaii. I met an authentic Mayan elder about 4 years ago. He was fluent in 9 languages, and he did a special meditation in English, which they do in their temples that are secret. They're hiding in Guatemala. They're hunted by the government. Their government sees them as a threat, and they don't even cut down live trees. Anything that's alive, they don't hurt. That's their lifestyle. When I first heard that, I was shocked because that's not what I learned in school. And this guy was a great spiritual being, seriously. And he did a meditation which used some of the same basic principles that I was inspired with, that I know I was in a sacred space when I got it 20 years prior. I call it Blessing of the Creation Sequence. It's a blessing for everyone and everything in the multiverse. Everything that's written in Genesis. There isn't any part of it that we don't have or aren't meant to have a symbiotic relationship with. For many years, I always said I wouldn't be surprised if it were written on some ancient temple's sacred walls somewhere, because that's what I saw in my mind's eye when I was talking about it. The first time I saw it physically written from an ancient source was about 1 year prior to the Mayan elder experience. I was shown Timothy's writings in the Mentana archives, who is believed to be one of the 3 Nephites. The Mentana archives had only recently been translated and available in English. A prophetess who was also the producer and director of a live play which recounted the actual historical events of those people, she had just become a new student and friend of mine, and she's the one who showed me her physical copy of the printed Mentana archive records. Since she'd just become a student of mine, she experienced the meditation which I'd already been doing for about 20 years, since 1993. She heard my comment about not being surprised if it were found written on some ancient temple's sacred walls because of how I knew I'd received it, and she remembered what she'd read by Timothy. Timothy's words are not exactly the same words that I use, but it is evident some of the same basic principles are applied, which Timothy claimed were one way he was blessed to be able to extend his life indefinitely. And according to the legend of the 3 Nephites, they were blessed to have their lives extended indefinitely by Christ himself, just like John the Beloved. The Blessing of the Creation Sequence is available in the course and through the live classes. Go experience it and get the reciprocation happening. Reciprocation is a law. It's a principle. You've got to be willing to pay the price of peace. Since Cain killed Abel, the sons of Adam, people have been killing for power and money. And I personally think that all the human bones that were found at the base of one of the Mayan pyramids, which archaeologists have found, was related to such an event. The parasitic elite abusers have become super wealthy through killing and even funding wars of other countries around the world to manipulate the entire world. So I believe all the human bones that were found at the base of a Mayan pyramid were either the remains of the good guys or the bad guys. Who knows? Maybe the good guys decided to do what it took to take the group of liars, cheaters, and murderers and weed them out and literally not put up with it anymore. I have mixed European ancestry, as most Americans do, and I'm part Native American and a tiny bit Mongolian. And I'm aware of a legend of many wars of an ancient Native American civilization in North America that eventually did that, which prepared for a visitation of Christ among them as some of the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. Them also must I bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. As spoken of by Christ in John chapter 10, verse 16, just before one of the attempts to stone him. The ancient Native American history was written down and passed on from long before Christ, as well as the record of the visitation of Christ after his resurrection, along with many other records. They were willing to step up and speak up and take the stand. They actually physically erected banners upon their towers in their cities, to which they wrote their standard of peace on the banner, their law, their title of liberty. Liberty. 1. Freedom from arbitrary or despotic government or control. 2. Freedom from external or foreign rule, independence. 3. Freedom from control, interference, obligation, etc. Liberty is options and choices. Justice is consequences of those choices, Since the beginning of recorded history, we've been writing our constitutions and rules, and they wrote their title of liberty. Liberty, freedom, and choices, they're all the same. To take a liberty is to choose and take an action. The title of liberty, listing their standard of peace, was a choice along with taking affirmative action. This is also believed to have been a covenant. Remember, relationships are about agreements, and when God's involved, it's a covenant. And according to their success, they were sustained in their actions. They decided to do what it took. They took the group of liars, cheaters, and murderers and weeded them out, just like weeds in a garden. They literally did not put up with abuse anymore. They killed every last abuser they found and chased the rest of them out of their land, which took them many, many years. Before long, all the abusers had either yielded to the forced behavior modification, were chased out, or killed off. So those who remained by the time Christ showed up had been prepared, and they ended up having the greatest period of peace after Christ came than they ever had in their recorded history. About 200 years of peace before opposition to their peace started to show up again, much of which is due to the fact that they had become such a wealthy and abundant people. Their egos and pride got out of control again, and within 300 years after Christ, the people had become so corrupt that there was an all-out war, killing for power and money on both sides for another 100 years straight, until their entire society was devastated in mass destruction. They paid the price of peace, but it didn't last because the future generations didn't appreciate those who paid the price before them, and they didn't understand it. Wow, what our younger generation can learn from this. The reason why I include this story in this program should be obvious. The main agenda is to create world peace. Nature seeks balance. What's happening in Mexico with the mafia is top mafia leaders have had their heads cut off in the middle of the night because it's been out of the hands of government, and it's such a terrible situation that finally someone decided that something had to be done. I'm glad that somebody didn't have to be me. A question to all fathers. What if somebody threatened your children? For example, would you kill tigers with your bare hands? You know what I'm saying? Before you'd let them get to your children? Do you care? I think most of you who are fathers and parents feel the same way. So that's just a fire that we have as humans. There is such a thing as a righteous defense, which isn't because of anger. It comes from love to defend our family, our freedom, and our very lives. The problem is the super elite abusers have manipulated the entire world, playing both sides against each other, stirring up the hearts of the people into hate and anger to divide and conquer since Cain killed Abel. And it's been about the same thing for them. It's been all about power and money. Human history has proven in every culture and lineage that we all have been given the freedom to choose to be an abuser and to form our thoughts and habits around justifying negative behavior of every kind. But now we know too much to make the same mistakes or even allow others to do the same.